Okay, good morning everyone. So the chapter that was going on, that it is chapter number 9, the accidental tourist. Okay, however we have covered half of the chapter already, but we are I am just describing a brief summary again so that we can continue the chapter. Fine. So what was going on in the chapter, actually, the writer is a very bad traveler, you can say. Whenever he goes for any journey, whenever he goes for any traveling, he just faces a lot of difficulties. Fine. Actually, we can say that they people are having different interest. Fine. As like if I want to tell about myself, I enjoy a lot when going on a traveling, or when I go on a visit. Fine. In the same sense, you people can also enjoy, or some of us do not enjoy at all, because they are just fed up with the packing and these things. So the writer was saying that I don't know. He was saying that I don't know how the people manage each and everything when they go on a traveling. Fine, but he was sharing his life incidents, that he was really a very bad traveler. Okay, and he was saying that he is sharing so many incidents of his life. Whenever he go for a journey, he faces a lot of troubles while going on a journey, and 2 and 3 or 4 incidents he shared with us yesterday. Also we discussed one incident we discussed yesterday. Fine. What was told in that incident, that when he reached on he went to England that time, and when he reached there, his bag's zip was locked, and he just pushed both the sides of that chain, and when this chain was opened, that everything what was kept inside the bag, inside that portion of the bag, as newspaper cuttings, as some loose papers were kept, as a tobacco tin was also kept in that. Fine. So everything that was kept inside that part of the bag, that was scattered on the you can say the on the airport only. Fine. So just a second. So everything was scattered on the airport, and he faced a lot of difficulties, and he was feeling shameful that time, and he was thinking some extra things also, that the quantity of tobacco that was spread, actually the lid was opened of that tin, means he was having a tin of tobacco, and the lid of that tin was opened. The whole tobacco that was kept inside that tin was scattered on the ground or on the floor. So he was thinking, and he was thinking and another thing also in his mind, that if he want to buy that much tobacco again, so how much does he have to pay? He had to pay a lot of money in England. Fine. So this was going on, and now we are starting our chapter. Just a minute. Just then he noticed that till that time he was just confused, and he was having an idea, or you can say he was just afraid because of the tobacco, that how much money he had to pay. Just then he noticed that his finger was bleeding, actually, and a lot of blood was gushing it out. Fine. So he noticed, and he started screaming that time. He was saying what kind of person he was, that if he see others' blood, it doesn't matter at all for him, but it was his own blood. That's why he started screaming. And what happened after that? It was at this point that my wife looked at me with an expression of wonder, not anger or exasperation, but just simple wonder, and said, "I can't believe you do this for a living, what happened? Because he went with his family, so his wife was also with him. So what did she say? It was at this point that my wife looked at me. Means when I was screaming, because my finger was cut and blood was coming out of it, and my wife started speaking like that. She was having an expression of wonder. Means she was having a mixed expression of wonder. She was looking surprisingly on me. She was not at all angry or exasperation. Means she was not at all irritated also. She was not filled with anger or irritating. Fine. But just a simple wonder. Means just she was surprised a little bit, and she started saying, I can't believe you do this for a living. Means how can just a small cut, you have got a small cut on your finger, and how can you scream like that in a public place, you can say. Fine. But I'm afraid it's so. I always have catastrophes when I travel. But the writer is saying that I'm afraid it's so. Means I am that kind of person. Means whenever I go outside of my home, whenever I go on the travelings, whenever I go on the journeys, I always face that kind of problems. I always have catastrophes. Catastrophes means different kind of problems, different kind of difficulties. When I travel, whenever he goes for traveling, he always face that kind of traveling. Fine. As like, if you notice, see some of the people when they just move inside their home, they just stuck to a table or the things which are kept inside the room, and they just fell it down. Means कुछ लोगों की ऐसी हैबिट में होता है कि जब वो चल रहे हैं तो किसी चीज से टकराते टकराते चलेंगे. And sometimes family members scold us also कि तुम हमेशा ऐसे ही चलते हो. So that the same thing, means same habit he was having. Whenever he goes, he always face problem. Another incident he is telling now. Once on an aeroplane, I leaned over to tie a shoelace. Just at the moment, someone in the seat ahead of me threw his seat back into full recline and found myself pinned helplessly in a crash position. It was only by clawing the leg of the man sitting next to me that I managed to get myself freed. What another incident is? He is telling, once on an aeroplane I leaned. Leaned is called bent. Like he was bent towards. He bent ahead. अपने आगे की तरफ झुका and to tie a shoelace. Why? Because his shoelace was untied and he wanted to tie it. Just at the same moment, what happened? As soon as he bent, as soon as he leaned, just then, at the same moment, someone in the seat ahead of me, someone was sitting on the seat ahead of me, means जो मेरे से पहले वाली सीट थी उस पर कोई बैठा हुआ था, and just then the person who was sitting on that seat, he just bent backside. He just threw his seat back at me and into full recline, means forcefully. He wanted to take a rest. He wanted to sit in a restful position. So he did not notice that the writer was bending towards and he was tying his shoelaces. He did not notice, but he wanted to sit peacefully, or you can say that he wanted to sit in a restful manner. That's why he just bent his seat backside and found myself pinned helplessly in the crash position. And the writer is saying that I found myself, because he was bent, so he just crashed. He was just pinned. Pinned means he could not move himself because the whole seat was above him. And in the crash position, he was thinking that as crash means हम किसी चीज को जैसे ऐसे कर देते हैं. So he was thinking that I was crashed that time. It was only by clawing the leg of the man. Claw होता है, claw means जो हमारा ये पंजा होता है, that is called claw. Fine. Birds ka, animals ka, we can call it claw. So he is saying that I was only freed myself by clawing the leg of the man. A man was sitting beside him. He clawed the leg of that person. He just pulled the leg of that person, and he could manage to free himself after doing that only. Otherwise, what would have happened? क्या हो जाता वरना? Completely he would have crashed. Yes. On another occasion, I knocked a soft drink onto the lap of a sweet little lady sitting beside me. The flight attendant came and cleaned her up and brought me a replacement drink. And instantly I knocked it onto the woman again. To this day, I don't know how I did it. I just remember reaching out for the new drink and watching helplessly as my arm, like some cheap prop in one of those 1950s horror movies with a name like The Undead Limb, violently swept the drink from its perch and onto her lap. What the writer is saying. On another occasion. Now, another incident he is describing. He is explaining another incident from his life while going on a traveling. Fine. What he has done in another incident. On another occasion, when he went for another traveling, I knocked a soft drink onto the lap of a sweet little lady sitting beside me. A lady was sitting beside him, and as a drink was provided to him in the aeroplane. So he is saying, I knocked a soft drink. When the drink was provided, when the soft drink means cold drink was provided to him, he just knocked it on the lady. Means he spilled it on the lady. Spilled मतलब बिखेर देना, फैला देना. Fine. The whole soft drink was spilled on the lady, and the flight attendant came and cleaned her up and brought me a replacement drink. Just then, what happened? When he spilled it out, when he spilled the soft drink, the flight attendant means as like air, जो हमारी air hostess होती है, that came and cleaned her up. That air hostess, that flight attendant cleaned that lady and brought me a replacement drink. She brought a new drink for me also. Because my drink was spilled, so she brought a new drink for me, and instantly, just then, I knocked it onto the woman again. Means, again he spilled the soft drink on the same lady, he is saying. To this day, I don't know how I did it. Means, the writer is saying, I really don't know how I did it. How did it happen? And I don't know the reason actually. Means I did not do it intentionally. जानबूझकर नहीं किया था. Intention नहीं था मेरा ऐसा करने का. But it was happening. I just remember reaching out for the new drink and watching helplessly as my arm. Writer is saying, I remembered only a single thing, that I was just moving my arm for clutching that drink. Means उस drink को पकड़ने के लिए मैं move कर रहा था अपना head, helplessly my arm, like some cheap prop in one of those 1950s horror movies. If you notice, see, nowadays though the technology is so much developed, but in the older movies, if we notice, if we see a horror movie, if we see a whole old horror movie, we want to say, the props are looking like that. They are cheap. Cheap मतलब किसी चीज से tie कर दिए जाते हैं, उनको move किया जाता है. That kind of cheap props were used that time. So he was saying that my hand has become a cheap prop that time, and it was just uncontrollable. I could not control my hand. I could not control my arm. The narrator was saying, and it was just working as a cheap prop of 1950s movies कि 1950s के 50 में जो चीप से जो बहुत ही सस्ते वाले जो props यूज किए जाते थे, in that manner my hand or my arm was working. And name is also saying, he is also telling us the name of the horror movie. Fine. Violently swept the drink from its perch, and my hand could not reach to the soft drink and onto her lap, and it spilled the soft drink onto her lap. Again on her lap, I spilled it over. The lady looked at me with the stupefied expression you would expect to receive from someone whom you have repeatedly drenched, and uttered an oath that started with "oh," finished with "sake," and in between had some words that I have never heard uttered in public before, certainly not by a nun. So, imagine a thing, imagine an incident. If you have spread water only, we are not talking about the soft drink, we are just talking about the water. If you have spilled water on on a stranger, again at the next moment you spilled it again, so what kind of expression do you expect from that stranger? What kind of expression? The person will get angry or not?
Ma'am, angry.
Yes, it is a human nature. See, it can be, we can forgive a person for once. But if the same thing is happening 2 times, can we imagine that it is not done by intentionally? We will see, or we will think that intentionally he is doing the same thing again. So, but the writer is saying that I did not do it intentionally. But the lady, she could not believe, and she looked at the narrator with stupefied expression, means with an angry mood she came. And you would expect to receive from the someone whom you have repeatedly drenched. Drenched is called, the meaning of drenched is actually that is getting wet in rainy water. बारिश में भीगने को हम drenched बोलते हैं, लेकिन यहाँ पर भी कंडीशन बारिश जैसी ही है, that the narrator was actually spilling the soft drink again and again on a particular person. Fine. So writer is saying you can expect the same expression from a person whom you are doing that kind of thing, whom you are drenching again and again, and uttered an oath. Oath means, oath वैसे तो हम किसी शपथ को बोलते हैं, कसम को बोलते हैं, but यहाँ पर एक different meaning है oath का. What is the meaning of that? That is curse. She was cursing him. बद्दुआएं दे रही थी, गालियां निकाल रही थी, abusing, and that started with "oh," finished with "sake," means only the first and last word he is describing here. He was describing that his curse started with "oh" and it finished with "sake," for the sake of. Fine. And in between had some words that I have never heard uttered in public before. Means that kind of words the lady used that the writer could not, actually the writer did not want to tell us that kind of language she used. Fine. Because it was to be happened. होना ही था ऐसा कि जब उसके साथ 2 बार ऐसा होगा. Fine. So he is saying that the lady used that kind of cheap language, that kind of abusive language, that the writer could not actually describe or use the words at the same time. In the chapter he could not. Fine. Certainly not by a nun. He was saying that the person, means एक lady से इस तरह की language मैं कभी expect नहीं कर सकता था. That kind of language she used. Fine. So the time is over for today. We will start the remaining chapter tomorrow. Fine. Bye bye all of you.